In a world where technology is rewriting the rules at lightning speed, disruption is not coming. It is already here. The question is, are you ready? Welcome to Tech Week, your insider's guide to the digital revolution transforming business, policy, and innovation in the Philippines and beyond. I'm your host, Jack Madrid, and we are cutting through the noise to bring you the real stories shaping our future. We're talking to the risk takers, the game changers, and the architects of tomorrow, unfiltered and straight from the source. This is not just tech news. This is the roadmap to what's next. This is Tech Week, and this is how we decode the future. Data privacy is not just for techies. It is front and center in our digital lives with AI, biometrics, and digital IDs moving from sci-fi to everyday use. Keeping our personal data safe has never been more urgent. And here in the Philippines, our digital economy is booming, and our technology and IT BPM sector is thriving. So privacy is not just a tech issue, it is the cornerstone of trust, digital inclusion, and innovation that lasts. And joining us this morning to break it all down is Damien Kieran, the Chief Privacy Officer at Tools for Humanity. That is the team behind World Network, among whose founders are Sam Altman. And he has our guest has shaped privacy policies in the US and in Europe and is focused on building privacy-first solutions that work globally, including right here in the Philippines. Today, we are asking the big question. Is the world uniting on data privacy, or is everyone doing their own thing? Why is privacy crucial for digital transformation? And what challenges does the Philippines have and should gear up for? And how do we innovate without sacrificing our privacy? Let us dive right in. Damien, welcome to Tech Week.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Great. Let's start off. Damien, you have extensive experience navigating data privacy across the US, Europe, and now at Tools for Humanity, which I want you to talk about, by the way. But how will you describe the current global landscape of data privacy, and are we seeing convergence or are we seeing fragmentation?
So it's a really good question, Jack. I think it's actually part of why Tools for Humanity and the project that we support, the World Network, exists. And that is, we believe that privacy rights should be the same for every human around the world. Privacy is a fundamental human right. So whether you're a Filipino, Irish like I am, or an American, you should have the same rights in all of those countries. The challenge is privacy is definitely fragmenting. Different countries treat it slightly differently. And it started a little bit in Europe maybe 10 years ago when they implemented a new law. And other countries around the world have sort of been chasing that law. And the result is we do see differences around the world. But what we want to do at Tools for Humanity is make sure ultimately that people have products and services that keep their data safe, keep their information private, but allow them to have control over it. That's ultimately the goal of what we do.
So tell us a little bit more about Tools for Humanity,
Sure.
And you have some illustrious co-founders behind that.
We do. So the project was founded by Sam Altman and a guy called Alex Blania. Alex is our CEO. Alex is a theoretical physicist from Germany, and together Sam and Alex founded Tools for Humanity and the World Project. And basically, the goal of the project is to help solve some of the most complicated problems that are facing humans in a world of AI. And I think some really good examples of this are like around fraud or deep fakes. So for example, there's lots of stories every week where you'll see people are deep faked, where a boss gets on a video camera and says in a Zoom call, hey, wire money, and an employee sends money. There was an example of this in Hong Kong, and I think the employee sent like $15 million, right? Believing that the person was actually their boss. Other examples are like Ticketmaster or ticket agencies, where people don't know who's buying the tickets and the prices of the tickets are scalped or taken by scalpers. Otherwise, we see it on dating websites where you don't know whether the person
Wow.
you're speaking to is a human or a computer. And so what we're trying to do is develop a technology that helps solve that problem. It allows you to know, I'm talking to something online, and that something is one unique human. And we built over the course of 5 years a unique technology that allows us to do that. And now we're rolling it out around the world, including here in the Philippines.
You've certainly shown with those very vivid examples, Damien, why privacy of data is such a critical component of not just for businesses but for consumers as well. Now, in your opinion, you've been to the Philippines before. What are some of the risks, and what might we as a country be overlooking?
Yeah, I don't think it's unique to the Philippines. I think that one of the greatest challenges we face at the moment around the world is it tends to be around digital literacy and whether people understand what they're doing with their data. So when I use a service and I give it my data, what is it going to do with that data and what control do I have over that data? That's a challenge, again, that's not unique to the Philippines. We see it all around the world. But what we want to do is through tools like the ones that we're building at Tools for Humanity is to provide people control. So with what we're building, you can create a digital identity or digital passport that allows you to keep your personal data private and anonymous, but yet you can still log into a service. So in the same way that you might use login with Google or login with Facebook into a different service, when you use those, certain data is passed between the services. And what we want to do is we want to stop that. We want to give people the control over their data, but give them the ability to still use those other services safely. But I think ultimately, Jack, it comes down to educating people, right? People need to understand how this technology works and then what they can do to control and keep themselves safe.
So your platform has the potential to provide everyone a unique digital passport.
In its simplest sense, yes. And our hope is that every human on Earth will have a world ID, a digital passport, an anonymous digital passport. It's really important. It's anonymous.
Okay, now let's bring this even closer to home. For a country like the Philippines, Damien, where people spend so much of their time on social media and other online services, why do you believe that data privacy should continue to be a top priority for every digital user? And as a follow-up, on a scale of 1 to 10, how prepared do you think the Philippines is when it comes to privacy, especially compared to the rest of the region and globally?
So I used to actually be the chief privacy officer for Twitter, or X. I was the first chief privacy officer there. And I think I saw firsthand how people use social media to share things about their lives. And I think that's, again, part of why I came to join this project. I think that it's really important to help people understand how to use these products safely. They're going to use them, whether it's Twitter or X, TikTok, Instagram. And I think people sometimes don't understand that when they share certain information, it can be there for everybody to see, or that it can be used by other services where a platform shares information with another platform. Again, I think that these are things that we see not just uniquely here in the Philippines, but all around the world. In terms of scoring how I think the Philippines is on data privacy, I think it's on par with its peers. I think that in the region, we see this increasing awareness of privacy. We see an increasing number of data privacy laws or laws around AI. But in fact, the Philippines was one of the first markets or countries in this region to have its own independent data protection authority. And so long before many other countries, in fact, if you look at Indonesia, they still don't have one. Here, you've had one for a number of years. And so I think in some respects, the Philippines is quite advanced. I think where it still has some work to do, like many other countries in the region, is the digital literacy part, educating people on their rights and how to keep themselves safe.
Well, that's a great answer, and good to know that we're not far behind.
Not far behind.
So, you seem to know the Philippines quite well, Damien.
I am but a mere guest, Jack.
But who would you say, in our population of 110 million, who would be the most vulnerable parts of our population. And what are some of the tips that you would advise them to take?
I think generally, irrespective of, again, whether it's the Philippines or the United States where I live today, the most vulnerable tends to be either the elderly or the very young. Typically, they're the folks that don't maybe understand the technology as well as others. And so they are the folks that I think that we need to help the most to understand things. We all have elderly parents or elderly relatives or young children that are in our families. We've all seen how they can interact with technologies, and sometimes it goes wrong, right? And so I think probably one of the most important things that you can help an elderly person or a young person in your family do is make sure that they're reading the information before they agree to certain services. It's really important. A lot of the long text that you see when you go through an app or to use a service, it can seem really boring, but it's really important, and it explains what rights you have. I think the other thing for parents with young children is to honestly use things like parental control features. Many of the phones today, like Apple or Android, have parental control features built in that allow a parent to help control some of the experiences around privacy that a child will have. And I think there are similar things that you can do to help elderly folks too, right? There are tools made available to help enable them. But again, the biggest part is also just being there to support these people. Sometimes they feel alone and they don't know how to use the technology, and then they don't have anybody to ask. So if you know someone who fits that category, help them, offer to help.
That's a very good recommendation. So I'm sure our audience, appreciates that. For a country like the Philippines, again, Damien, let's talk about companies themselves, right? What are their own unique risks, and how would your platform address risks of companies?
Well, as I mentioned in the intro, we see a lot, and I don't think it's unique to the Philippines, but of deep fakes. So people being fooled either by voice or video that someone that they're interacting with might be a colleague. So this falls into the class of what is called phishing attacks.
Yes.
And often a phishing attack could be a phone call where someone will say, "Hey, I'm Damien, I'm from your IT team. Your boss told me to contact you because there's a problem with your laptop." And they will convince you to do something that will then give them access to your network or your computer. And so I think these attacks are getting more sophisticated. What we see is that a product or a service like ours can help prevent these types of things. So in the same way that a few years ago you might use like a CAPTCHA to figure out if someone was a human or a computer logging into a website, or you have that thing where you get the code by an SMS message and you put it in, what we're building is a much more advanced version of these things. So it can help prevent, for example, the video deepfake. You and I are here live today, Jack, but if I was on a video call, you may not know it's me. Right. I can use a filter and I could pretend to be anybody. And so what we've built is a technology that allows you to prove that you are that unique person. So I could prove to you, even on a video call, I'm Damien. I am who I say I am. And you can trust that interaction. So in the business context, I think that's going to be incredibly important.
Sounds like a very important precautionary measure indeed to build in. But we're going to continue on that point. But right now we're going to take a quick break. Trade Talks Tech Week. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Tech Week. We continue our discussion with Damien Kieran, the Chief Privacy Officer at Tools for Humanity. Damien, as more emerging technologies like AI and biometric systems are deployed, what are some of the privacy challenges for countries like the Philippines to start building and preparing for now?
So I think it's both opportunity and not just challenges. And that is, AI is going to unlock incredible opportunities for everyone in society, both in the Philippines and around the world. I do think training AI systems requires using a lot of information, and making AI systems useful in the Philippines or in a different country requires you to have a lot of data from that country. If I was to create an AI system for France, I would need to use French user data to make it useful to French people, right? And so similarly, we'll have to do the same thing in the Philippines. But that presents some challenges from a privacy perspective, because how do you keep that data safe? And so again, what we are advocating and pushing forward is new technologies, like anonymizing technologies to keep that data safe and secure. A technology called zero-knowledge proofs, which allows you, again, to use those data in safe and secure ways. But it's something that we all have to manage, because there's definitely pros and cons on both sides.
You know, a lot of folks get nervous, right, when they hear about biometric data being collected, such as scanning your eyes. Mm-hmm. How do you assure people that tools like, you know, the orb, that's your scanner, right, can verify someone, that someone is human without invading privacy or even storing personal data?
It is the right question that people should ask, and what we would ask them to do is to actually look at the technology. And what I mean by that is everything that we have built is open source. So we don't believe that anybody should own the technology we are building. We believe it should be open for everybody to use. So that orb, that camera, is completely open source. Someone could look at the plans and decide to build one. Similarly, the network where the data is stored is also open source. And the beauty of that, Jack, is it means anybody can examine the code and make sure that it's working the way we claim it does. So maybe the best way to say it is, don't take our word for it, check, right? And we invite governments, regulators, third-party auditors to check the system, because we want everybody to be able to trust it.
Okay. What's the traction been like in countries, you know, like the Philippines? You're here this week, or other markets in Southeast Asia?
It's been amazing. I think 2025 is going to be a huge year for the project. We're launching in many markets around the world. At the moment in the Philippines, we're doing what we would call like a beta test, where we're just testing a few orbs, making sure that everything works, and then we'll hopefully look to expand over the coming months into 2025. But beyond the Philippines, we recently rolled out in Indonesia, Thailand. We're also active in Malaysia, South Korea, Japan, so growing rapidly. And we're really excited to see the growth that we'll have this year in 2025.
You know, you've worked on privacy-first solutions, you know, with, you know, global reach. So what lessons from Tools for Humanity's approach can be applied to increasing and building trust and digital inclusion in, you know, the developing markets that you just mentioned?
First and foremost, I think it's still education. For me, it'll always be education. I think that everything starts with education, and then we look at the technology. And then the types of technology that we look at are things like privacy-enhancing technologies. Privacy-enhancing technologies are, it's a suite of technology that was developed over the last 20, 30 years by privacy and security researchers. It's designed to make sure that you can use data for all of the good that it presents for business and commerce and government, but it's kept safe. And so I would encourage businesses to look at those technologies as they develop new things in the Philippines and beyond.
Okay. You know, as we wrap up this fascinating conversation, Damien, I wanted to ask you, you know, what would be your message to governments and to business leaders here in the Philippines about the long-term value of embedding privacy in both their policy making and to continue innovation?
We are entering a new world. AI is coming faster than we can all imagine, and the world is going to change. And I believe that ensuring that people have their data protected, their biometric data protected, and their personality protected is going to be incredibly important. We see innovations happening rapidly every day that will allow us to replicate other people's attributes, their voice, their face, their features, their IDs. And so I think it's really important that government companies and also civil society work together to find solutions that'll help us manage in this new world.
Well, it's a sound advice, and wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you, Jack.
As you continue to gain traction in these emerging markets. That will be a wrap for this week's Tech Week. A huge thank you to Damien Kieran for sharing his valuable insights with us this morning. The future is being built right now, and conversations like these help us decode the future and navigate what is next. Join us again next week as we dive into another game-changing story shaping technology, business, and innovation. Until then, stay curious, stay bold, stay ahead. I am Jack Madrid. You can catch BNC on Free TV Channel 31 and on Signal Channel 24. Thank you for watching BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel, always on top.